Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to take a unique look at leadership with the co-founder of PRAX Leadership. It's Alex Geesbreght is in the studio. His incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I know a lot of lawyers who hate the law. I know a lot of doctors who wake up 20 years into their practice and say, I really don't want to see patients anymore. I was a TV reporter for 25 years. At the time I became a young reporter, I couldn't even imagine life after news, but I decided to call it quits in 2008, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Alex Geesbreght is in the studio. He's with PRAX Leadership, and you call yourself a recovering attorney.
Well, that's true.
So
among other things.
You might need to explain that. So you were a prosecutor and then a defense attorney?
I did medical malpractice defense.
Okay.
And then I followed my wife. I was in depositions in like Amarillo for weeks at a time, and my wife was at the DA's office trying cases, and we'd get home and compare notes. And I was like, I went to law school to try cases, not to take depositions. So I went and did that. Eventually took an in-house counsel job at a company and practiced for a few more years before I started my own company.
Okay, so one of the things you're passionate about is getting people to know themselves.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you?
Well, so at PRAX, this company that is really it's sort of a natural offshoot or culmination of my brother and my life work. Fortunately, we had an opportunity to work together and own, start, sell several businesses over the last several decades. And it's just a way of recognizing and formalizing a way for companies to treat their people, not necessarily their employees. And one of the things we found over time was that, you know, there's this concept of this work-life balance, but you have the same one person. And I think it's very important that businesses look at their people as people, not simply for the betterment of their business.
Yes.
And so what PRAX does is focus on the self-leadership that leads to ultimately what I think we're all sort of chasing, which is happiness. You sort of think about it.
We're going to pull up your website and we're going to scroll down the website. Talk about the kinds of clients that you work with. Are they business owners or who are they?
Yeah, so when PRAX started about 4 years ago, we were focused because of our history on businesses. Over time, we started having these community folks, not trying to at all, but firefighters, educators, police, and they would come through and we would find that they were really struggling with well-being. And that was one of the things that we got into this for. And we think that there's a great deal that is tied to understanding yourself and practicing your values and your well-being. And over time, these people started going through, one of our products is called Pathfinder. It's a pretty intense 10-week program. And maybe after 100 people said a version of, man, I wish I'd had this when I was younger, we started taking note. And then one time in particular, I'll just share this with you. There was an 80-year-old man who's a very successful attorney throughout his life. He'd been retired, and he comes through and walks up to one of our guides at the end of the 10-week celebration. And he says, you know, if I had had this when I was younger, it would have changed the course of my life.
Wow.
And we're sitting there kind of going, what? And so like smarter people would have like said, ding, ding, ding. So it took us another 1.5 years to realize, maybe we should start teaching this to a younger generation. That's when I said, hey, there needs to be a division of PRAX, which had up to that point been focused on business and community for younger people, for people that are matriculating from high school, making that transition to college or to the workforce, because there are just so many different opportunities out there, and you never know what's around the corner. And we can't prepare our kids for every conceivable one, but we can help prepare them for them.
And that's called PRAX U. We've got some video from our library. So I'm imagining, like, when I went into college, Michigan State, 40 years ago, I had a lane. I was like, I want to try TV news and broadcasting. But a lot of people graduate high school. They have no clue where they're going to go. How does PRAX U help the next generation?
I think it really comes down to, so my heart is here because I have 3 kids, and I watched them and their friends recently, because they're back to back in age, matriculate to college. And my son didn't go initially. He became a professional race car driver, which is very unconventional. But we watched the kids come in and out of our house. It was sort of Grand Central Station. And I would say if there was one trait that sort of swung the pendulum one way or the other, was how well did that kid know themselves? Where were their boundaries? What did they allow? How did they interact with the world in terms of their ultimate happiness and their success so far anyway in college or at the next level? I will say, and I think this has more to do with my wife than me, but our kids, far from perfect. Everybody thinks their kid is, perfect and smart and everything. I think our kids have a real good sense of who they are, a good sense of self. And I think when you have that, it gives you a certain confidence, especially when you go to places like college where there are firsts, there are moments of first impression all around every single corner. I think even though you've never been there before, if you have a sense of who you are and your values and you live those values, boy, it really protects you and gives you a sense of security that I think is very important to success.
All right, so one of my favorite songs is by The Verve, and it was Bittersweet Symphony, and there's a line in there that talks about you're a slave to the money and then you die.
Yeah.
And I think so many parents, if you will, are encouraging their child to go into a place where they can make some money because they care about their kids and show when I'm starving. Right. Is that a mistake? Do you allow the child to say, Dad, I want to be an artist?
Well, so we have a phrase in our family, and we say that your purpose, which is the thing I think you should be chasing, because we think that living your purpose leads to happiness. Now, money can make people happy temporarily, I guess, but we say that purpose is where your passion and your talent intersect. So if I had a great passion to be, the center for the Lakers, that'd be great, but I don't think anyone's going to put me in that position. So you have to have talent and you have to have passion for that thing, and you have to work, and it has to pay you. So I don't think it's a mistake. I think what parents are saying when they say that to their kids is, we want you to pursue something with all of yourself. I think making the carrot be money is a mistake.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and I'm blessed that both of my kids work with me. So
you are blessed.
I really am.
That's neat.
You've been featured in countless articles. We've got one from Shout Out DFW, and I want to scroll down this article because you have a beautiful family, and they're prominently featured in the article. I guess this is a year or two ago. Yeah. Tell us about your family.
So I met my wife when I was my last year of law school, and she was a criminal defense attorney and I was her law clerk. And we got married and moved down to Fort Worth and afterwards, and have 3 kids. Our oldest just retired from professional auto racing and moved back from Charlotte. He dropped out of high school when he was 16, took his GED. Number 2 is the most talented and most affable human being, kindest human being you'll ever meet. His name is Joe. And he's in college right now down in College Station. And our youngest, Vivian, plays soccer for the University of Texas.
Well, I got to tell you, you have such a beautiful family. Like when you buy when you go to Walmart or something like that and you buy a frame, they have a make-believe family. It looks like a make-believe family.
Except they need a new dad version. Yeah, they have to replace me. That's all right.
We've got some video from our library of happy employees. Let's talk about some common pitfalls when it comes to business leaders really seeing their team as interchangeable. And, we both came from the news business, and I sometimes felt like a number.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people do. And look, you're in business. You want to make money, and you have to follow a P&L and a balance sheet. Sure. And I understand that, but I think the real key is focusing on who you have and putting them in a place where they themselves can thrive. I think one of the biggest mistakes that any boss makes is to try to micromanage an individual where they never feel like they have that autonomy and never have a sense of mastery.
Yes.
If you can pour into the individual as themselves and want truly what is in their best interest, high tide will lift all boats, and you're just going to have a happier, more secure workforce.
We've got some video because you've been on a number of podcasts. We're going to put one of the podcasts up. And I think in this one, you're talking about employee morale and what it takes to have a happy team. I do think there's a common expression that people quit bosses, they don't quit companies.
Boy, I think that's right.
And many of the leaders, they were a hotshot salesperson, and so suddenly they got promoted to leader of a team, but they haven't read a leadership book. They're kind of making up as they go along, and they're chasing off really good employees.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think the worst thing you can do is put somebody in a position and not trust them and let them do it. And I think there are so many ways. One of the interesting ways, and this is true with employees and it's true with children, correct them out of love. And my father-in-law used to say, another little trick is catch some of your people red-handed in the act of doing something great. So instead of just every time they talk to the boss, it's because you did something wrong, just comment on something that they did right, and you're conveying, I trust you. Boy, that was a great job, and I notice you. That does nothing but create a sense of purpose in the individual, which is really who you want around you. You don't want a bunch of sycophants that are just doing whatever it is that you tell them to do, because they'll just only do it when you tell them.
Amen. We've got about a minute left, so leave us with some final thoughts. What do you think people? What's one strong takeaway that everybody should get from this podcast?
Oh, well, first of all, I guess, this is probably not the answer you want. I just want to say that I am an avid consumer and have been for decades of the news in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and I've always enjoyed your style, Jeff, and I really appreciate you having me. I think that one of the things that you said is, I thought I wanted to do this. We work with missional folks every single day that go into healthcare, they go into being a police or firefighter, and when they come out, and it could be true of any profession, sometimes they can lose their identity because that's who they were. What we try to do is to kind of show them that is what they did. Yes, that was part of who they were in terms of passion, but to focus on who they are as an individual, because when you no longer have that thing and it's out of your life, you're left with yourself. And so to really, really investigate, understand your values, to practice those values, that's the way to be happy and to increase your well-being.
Beautiful. Well said. We're going to end with the website, which is praxleadership.com. The great Alex Geesbreght. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.